To figure out where the Iron Pigs baseball team name came from, you actually have to go back to the 19th century Lehigh Valley. Lehigh Valley played a vital role in the American Industrial Revolution. Thanks to an abundance of natural resources like iron ore, especially brown hematite, and limestone, this region became the perfect place for making iron. Add in the nearby anthracite coal from the hills of northeastern Pennsylvania, and you had everything you needed to create pig iron, the building block of the Industrial Revolution. The iron industry began all the way back in 1791, when anthracite coal was discovered in Summit Hill, Carbon County. The challenge was getting it down to Lehigh Valley and into the market. Before trains and steam engines, supplies were hauled by horse-drawn wagons, slow and very inefficient. That changed in 1818 when entrepreneurs Josiah White and Erskine Hazard secured navigation rights to the Lehigh River and formed the Lehigh Navigation Company. But the river's rocky terrain made it very difficult to navigate. The solution was the Lehigh Canal, a system of locks and dams that made it possible to transport coal by boat between Mong-Chunk, which is now Jim Thorpe, and Easton. This dramatically cut the shipping costs and boosted the local economy. With transportation solved, the next question was, how do you use anthracite coal to make iron? At the time, iron was made with charcoal, an expensive and unsustainable option. In Wales, however, a new hot blast method was being tested with anthracite coal. It needed a hot air to keep the coal burning steadily, but it did work. White and Hazard and David Thomas, the Welshman who first succeeded in using anthracite in a hot blast furnace. In 1839, Thomas and his family moved to what is now Catasauqua and built Crane Iron Works. It quickly became a success, producing 52 tons of pig iron per week. Thomas would later be remembered as the father of anthracite iron making in America. Thomas joined with White, Hazard, and a few others to form Thomas Iron Company. It started in 1854. Its first furnaces were upriver from Catasauqua and Honkadakwa, and it eventually absorbed Crane Iron Works. The company grew rapidly, acquiring more furnaces, including Lockridge in Alberta and Island Park in Easton. As railroads spread throughout the Lehigh Valley, furnaces no longer had to sit right on water. This allowed for more expansion, and soon the Lehigh Valley was dotted with mines, furnaces, and train lines. One site was the Saucon Iron Company, which was chartered in 1866 and located along the North Penn branch of the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad in Hellertown, which is currently the rail trail at the Water Street Park. The Saucon Iron Company's complex included 2 brick furnaces, boilers, stockhouses, a blacksmith shop, and a carpenter shop. There were many more buildings on the property, and all of them were built without electricity. Workers used archways and skylights to bring in natural light. In 1884, the furnaces became part of the Thomas Iron Company, and they were numbered number 10 and number 11, the first in the U.S. to be built with sheet iron shells on cast iron columns, all designed by John M. Hartman. The plant was mirrored, so whatever on one side was also on the other side. From the boilers into the furnace, there was flammable gas in the furnace, and they actually had a pipe that came out of the furnace and went into the boilers. That way they were recycling it and they weren't just throwing it off into the atmosphere. So the trains, when they went into the stockhouses, they were actually on an elevated cement blocks, and that way they could just dump what they were carrying and it would land on the floor. Fun fact about the slag was, at least in Lockridge, they leased it to the Turnpike Company, and that's what's under the PA Turnpike. To make pig iron, you need 3 ingredients: anthracite coal, iron ore, and limestone. The iron ore and the limestone were mined locally, especially because limestone can be found just about anywhere. And once the ingredients got here by train, they were on an elevated train track where they then dumped the ingredients onto the ground. The men working down there were known as the bottom men. They would take all of the ingredients and put it in an elevator. The elevator was originally powered by the water. Later it was hydraulics. And once the ingredients got to the top men worked up there, and they took all those ingredients and layered it into the furnace. The furnace would take about 5 to 6 hours for the chemical reaction to happen in there, but once it was ready to go, they would put sand on the casting room floor. The sand was stampered to made to look like a mother pig with her suckling baby piglets. I'm not sure why they chose that, because they must have had a really good imagination. Once they were ready to unplug it. They would just let gravity do its job because the room was slanted and the iron would just pour through. They would take the slag off, and to those of you who are familiar with the cinder banks up here, that is where they put the slag, which was the garbage. Life for the workers was very difficult. The typical worker put in 12-hour shifts for 13 days straight, rotating between day and night work. Over 80 men were needed to run the furnace around the clock. Their families often worked too. Women might roll cigars or work in silk mills. In fact, many of the workers' wives bought the silk mill industry to this area, and in 1912, Allentown was the top producer of silk. Though many workers rented company-owned homes, some eventually bought them. Today, a few of those original homes still stand along Thomas Avenue. The Panic of 1873 marked the beginning of the end for the anthracite iron companies. By the end of World War I, most furnaces had closed or switched to coke, which was cheaper and more reliable. Thomas Iron Company failed to adapt and shut its doors in 1922. The Hellertown site closed in 1920, and most of the buildings were demolished soon after. The last anthracite furnace in America was Lockridge in Albertus. Although the furnaces are gone, the Lehigh Valley still bears the marks of its industrial past. There's old quarries, preserved furnace ruins, and rail trails that once carried the iron and coal. Today, the old Hellertown furnace site, known to some as the Cinder Banks, is part of the Saucon Rail Trail and a public space. You can still find remnants of the furnace just off the path, offering a glimpse into time when the region powered a growing nation.